Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to some tier list making. I have here what is left of my Fire Emblem 8, the Sacred Stones tier list that I made over a long time that I made the big tier list. So I took all the F8 characters out, put them in this little list here, and I looked at it, and I was like, wow, this is actually kind of bad. I actually don't agree with this a whole lot. And I brought someone with me that also thinks that, I think, who has had plenty of FE8 experience and discussions himself. How are you doing, Jumpy? How's it going?
Yeah, hello Mecca. It's great to be in one of your videos, and you are correct. I disagree with a lot of the placements here, but that's why we're here. And to be fair to you, the FE8 meta has shifted a whole freaking lot lately. So, just to give a quick background on my personal experience,
Yeah, where were you coming from?
just
Who are
finished
you to say like, hey, your tier list bad?
Right.
Just-
Yeah, I just finished an FE8 0% LTC on my channel and the Ephraim Route, and I talk about this game a whole freaking lot with a bunch of other top FE8 players like the Chungler, who just finished an FE8 Erica efficiency playthrough, which he completed without any RNG rigging in 95 turns. My 0% LTC was 79 turns. Even among top FE8 players, the idea that, say, Moulder is one of the best units in the game came around within the last 6 months. So there's a lot of shakeups to be made, but it's not that Mecha is stupid and uninformed. It's that the entire community is stupid and uninformed.
Wow, well, I guess we'll fix that then, I guess. I will say real quick, because we're almost sounding like big elitists right here, which to an extent maybe we are. This will be more centered around like an efficient playthrough. I don't think it's gonna be quite LTC to the max, like pedal to the metal, get the lowest turn count everywhere kind of playthrough. But it will be centered around like a context where the best units actually do come out on top over the worst units. Like, there has to be some distinction between a unit that's really good and a unit that's kind of okay and a unit that's really bad. And I think most people would agree, like, for example, no one will disagree that Seth is really good. No one will disagree that, for example, Ewan is really bad. I can't say Amelia because I know there's people who think otherwise, but I'll just use Ewan as an example, or Marissa. There has to be some kind of distinction here, and that's what making tier lists is all about. So that's the context in which we're doing this. I actually had a quick shot. I didn't tell you this yet, Jumpy, but I was like, I'm gonna make some background footage for this video, so I'll just play FE8 casually, but I won't like try to out to see it, but I'll try to play fast. I'll not try to stall, grind, route maps or something. I was just like, if I can finish the map, I can finish the map. So I'll just move Seth full move every turn, rescue drop him 2 bosses if I have to. Just play kind of fast, but not LTC, if you know what I mean. So kind of efficiency,
Right.
except that I didn't plan anything, so it still looks terrible and super inefficient and bad. But just to give you an idea of what kind of context I'm looking for, and that has, I think, reinforced a lot of things I think we're already going to be discussing, particularly related to like Vanessa and Franz, especially. That I was already thinking. I think a lot of the people that play FE8 at a high level are already thinking. So that's the way we're going to do this. Before we start tiering individual units, one more quick note that I want to make. If you watched the big tier list, you might know that I used to have an S plus and S minus tier, A minus, A plus, B plus, B minus. C and below was all one tier. I undid all these pluses and minuses because I don't think there was a big enough gap between the units within the tiers to warrant it, or if there was, like in this case over here, I think we can move units around in a way that it still makes sense without all pluses and minuses in there, because the cast isn't really big enough to warrant like 20 different tiers. So now we have like a really big C tier, and that's really all there is to it. And we'll see if we need to make any new pluses or minuses or not, but I think we can get everything done by just shifting them around within the tiers that you can see on the screen right now, from just S to F with no pluses and minuses. But that's the only change I've made. I haven't moved anything else, which is why it looks so bad. So, where do you want to begin?
At the top, Seth, because you cannot understand the FE8 meta without understanding just how absolutely ridiculously over-the-top broken Seth is. He needs to be in a tier of his own.
I agree.
Like,
I still think
Vanessa,
I still think we can call it the S tier though, just because it's Seth. So it's S for Seth.
Yeah.
Or do you think it should be an
still
SS?
very good, but S. Okay, so in my tier list that I made for the efficiency Discord a few months ago, I had Seth in S tier with 21 S's. Orisa cut that down when he made it official to S tier with only 3 S's.
Jeez. All right. So am I gonna have to change my whole layout, all my letters, just for Seth?
Well, this is a part of your like big every game tier list, right?
True.
So just put him in whatever tier you have Sigurd and Robin in.
Okay, that's especially in those cases, that is just called S, I think. But I might end up moving a lot of other units down.
Just drop Vanessa to A tier then.
Yeah, that's what I think I'll do for now. If we do need to create that extra little tier somewhere, because I think I've seen that tier list that Irissa made. I think I remember. I think wasn't it like S in a tier of its own, then an empty tier, and then everything else below in a tier below that, or something like that.
I think somebody did a tier list like that, and someone's done a tier list like that for Har and Radiant Dawn as well. That would have been Gordon, not Irissa.
Oh, fair.
But yeah, so let's talk about Seth. So the really insane, horrifying thing about Seth is that he is your Jagan, and yet he is better when you play with growths than when you play 0%.
Yeah, I think Seth actually has the same base speed as Marcus. He just has a growth that's like twice as high.
Right. I think he might have one more, but yeah, he's only got 12 base speed. It's just I don't know Marcus's, and 14 attack and 30 HP. But the thing is, like, he literally level caps. So I saw a post on Reddit recently of someone saying, just finished FE8, here's my team. And like, I don't mean to dump on him, he's just, playing it for fun. But there was like a level 5 Seth in the screenshot. And someone in the comments was like, yeah, look at that Seth. Like, he's obviously really good, but people act like he's the best unit ever, and I don't see it. The thing is, like, boss kill XP in GBA is weird as hell, and you get a flat 40 XP for killing a boss, no matter what level you are or anything. So you're actually throwing by giving boss kills in the early game to anybody but Seth, because he has better growth than Franz, and his only reason he doesn't get to activate them is low XP gain in the early game. But he gets 100 XP from killing the Revenant in Chapter 4, or whatever the Entombed, that's the promoted version of Revenant. You can't do better than 100 XP. So when you give Seth every boss kill, he's hitting level 5 by Chapter 5, and it's just the most broken thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a universal timeline somewhere where you can give that XP to someone else and it'd be better. For example, if you need like a really strong flyer at some point, you can feed him to Vanessa. But I don't think that's the case, and generally I think that's the thing that makes sense broken, in my opinion, or one of the ways you could phrase it, is not only is he your Jagan, but he's also your carry, in a way, like a combat carry.
Right, absolutely.
Usually often you have like a Jagan that's trying to feed into someone else being a carry. Carry can come up with a great example of that. But that's generally how it goes. But Seth is literally both. Also, I did look it up, and yeah, Seth does have one more speed than Marcus at base, so because they needed to make him better, I guess.
Yeah, right, as if he wasn't good enough. So your point about Seth being a carry is a great point. I was going to bring that up because he is the answer to every problem in the entire game, basically. Like, except for the problem of, I need to cross this river, or, I need to move twice in one turn.
Yeah.
But you're moving Seth twice in one turn, because...
Yeah, I was tiering him in
final boss. Sorry.
Yeah. I was tiering him for, I think, unit stonks, like putting him in a graph. And I was trying to figure out in what chapter is Seth not your best unit. And I think I came up with like Darkling Woods, maybe like final chapter, and I don't even remember what I did for Scorched Sand. I don't think I gave him a 10 for that one, but he was pretty high anyway. And I think only flyers were scored higher, like combat flyers. That's it. I couldn't really come up with another map where he's not your best unit.
Yeah, I mean, there's like Chapter 12, Erica Route, which Chapter 13, Ephraim Route. We'll talk about those because those two maps are so powerful that they boost like entire units' viabilities by a whole tier. But yes, like Leon is the final boss of the game, and there are two real viable boss killers for Leon. One is Myrrh, who is your Athos unit, and the other is Seth. You can pretty reliably strength cap Seth and then kill Leon with him. So like, the combat that Seth brings to the table is so good you don't need other combat in FE8. And in fact, trying to put other combat on your team is generally a bad idea because enemies will target that unit instead of Seth. I
Well,
had this problem doing Ephraim Route Chapter 9, where I needed an 8-move unit to do rescue drops, but I had to make sure that Seth was killing everything on enemy phase.
Well, I think that depends a little bit, right? Because Sacred Stones, depending on what route you go, it has a lot of route maps, right? So sometimes you will need more than just Seth. As good as Seth is, he can't be in 2 places at once. That's like the one curse of FE8, right? Is that you can't have Seth in 2 places at once. So he can't do everything by himself. But you are right that doing anyone else near him detracts from him. I have found that what you described, though, that for me describes like my early game experience when trying to go fast, is that Franz and Vanessa, you really need to be very deliberate about feeding them XP without slowing yourself down, which is very easy to do because any enemy that, like you said, that doesn't go for Seth and goes for them instead, they'll just not die, and you'll need like 3 more units to clean that unit up.
Right. Yeah, FE8 doesn't have as many route maps as you might think. But I find that no game actually has as many route maps as you might think, except like
All route.
Gaiden.
Yeah. Well, it's not that there's many route maps. I think I feel like there's definitely more than FE7. At least more impactful ones. And they're also like, I guess they're just the maps that I've spent the longest time playing, and so they're
yes.
Like, very,
the thing about route is
experience.
It's hard, and it sticks in your brain for being hard. Like nobody remembers all the kill boss maps like you remember all the route maps. So I do get your point that like the hardest maps in the game are the maps where you have to use units other than Seth. And those tend to be the route maps. And so those are the ones that you have to really think about and optimize for. And that's another point that I want to bring up at some point. But I think I'll hold on to that for a bit when it comes more into play. And the other thing is that, and I kind of touched on this already, but Seth is like Doritos for everything. Which I don't know if your fan base knows the term Doritos.
I know the term, but I don't think anyone else does. An optimal resource target is what I believe it means.
Yeah, exactly. So there are things that you don't want to give him, like he doesn't need there are 2 speed wings in the game and he doesn't need to get one of them. But it is not silly to give Seth like an energy ring, a speed wing, like 2 angelic robes, the boots. So that's something that has really come around in the last year or 2 with Irisa's switch to thinking more about efficient play rather than pure LTC. He really dragged the LTC of community kicking and screaming into thinking about reliability. Is that we've realized rather than giving resources to like weird niche units to perform some specific role, you really just take like the 1 turn loss and give them to the unit that sees the most combat throughout the game to make it more reliable. Which affects the tier list even further by making your good units even better and your mediocre niche units worse.
Yeah, I think it's always a bit hard to sell to some people that a unit that's already really good should get a bunch of stat boosters, even if it makes the most sense to people who've played the game for a long time, because then it almost feels like you're saying Seth is really good, so he should get all the stat boosters, so he's even better. It's like it becomes like a circular argument, right? And we used to make fun of people for going, this unit is very good because I gave him all the stat boosters and they were really good for me. Because that was like, people would always go, yeah, but that's favoritism, you can't do that. But these resources do exist in the game, and they do have optimal targets, and within the context of efficient playthrough, it can be optimal to give those to Seth. I generally don't try to give units full credit for being able to use an angelic rope to the best of their potential, but I do think it's important to note when it is applicable, and for Seth it definitely applies to some extent. But I think you could make the case for example, someone like Ephraim Route Core Mag, just to give a random example, or a Vanessa or a Tana, if you're using those, that they are really good users of those resources instead. So I think it should be mentioned for them as well. But for Seth, yeah, noted.
Yeah, Cormag and Vanessa, and then like Erica Route Saleh are mostly his main competitors for stat boosters. We'll talk about those when they come up. Speaking of which, I think we've belabored the point enough.
Yeah.
Like Seth warps the game. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's not let him warp this discussion too much.
Right.
Although he will.
To the A tier, and the first unit in A tier is Vanessa, so she doesn't have to move at all.
Oh, nice. I honestly
Um,
wasn't expecting her to stick around.
Yeah, so here's the thing, is Vanessa, I don't think you should even promote her in Ephraim Route. It's just not worth the turn loss to get the whip, and she is still the second best unit in Ephraim Route.
You're
Because
just assuming that Cormac gets his own whip then, right?
yeah. Because Seth he doesn't fly, so we need someone to patch that up, and that's one of Vanessa's main contributions. For example, like chapter 2, 4. I just wrote down the list of chapters where flying is like a big thing that really helps. 2, 4, 6, 7, 9 Erica, 10 Erica, 12 Erica, 15 Erica. 10 Ephraim, 11 Ephraim, 12 Ephraim, 13 Ephraim, 15 Ephraim, 17, 18, 20, final. These are all maps where you can fly and do no combat and be really good. Because there's just some terrain that you need to get over that flying helps with.
Yeah, and it's generally lifting someone like Seth over that terrain to get them to a place where they need to be, but they can't because no wings, right? That's generally the idea with Vanessa.
Right. Yeah, there's some things like recruiting Ewan in chapter 12 in Ephraim Route. You're not moving anybody, but somebody just needs to fly up there and get Ewan, and
Yeah.
Vanessa can do that. Or like Phantom Ship, she has to do combat, but it's super token combat against Moguls that have low one-round benchmarks. So a lot of these are just take a good unit, carry them over something, like the river in chapter 13b, or the river in chapter 7. And that's, just pick up Seth and put him somewhere else.
I guess I would like to throw in something about my experience with Vanessa. I've always been a really big fan of using Vanessa as an actual combat unit for as long as I knew that she was good. And I definitely could tell that she's not great at base, but I always felt like the payoff of having a flyer for the mid game was just so worth it. And I think part of this was like kind of colored by my experiences when draft racing and experiences when playing like 100% growth LTC, which is a completely different context that warps everything around because their level ups are obviously more powerful when you have 100% growth. So the what's it called? The board or end god LTC, it's a completely different thing where reliability doesn't factor into it at all. And I've tried to compensate for this bias, but I don't think I did it quite enough because I still tend to like Vanessa for combat contributions. But looking at more efficient playthroughs and doing that playthrough that you're hopefully seeing in the bottom right of your screen right now, I noticed that, Vanessa doesn't really have many great opportunities to actually get the kills that she needs to become viable. You can feed her a couple, and I'm sure if you sit down and plan a chapter for a while before playing it, which is not what I did, then you can find ample of these opportunities. In fact, there's probably runs out there that do that pretty well. I remember, I think Espinosa might have done one at one point with like rigged average growths and stuff like that. You can definitely make her viable if you try really hard, but I don't think it saves you any turns because you'll probably have to give up turns somewhere to feed her enough kills. Like, she is not durable enough to get more than like 1 or 2 kills per turn, I think, generally. Maybe some chip XP along the way. And she can't outgrow the enemies fast enough, and she doesn't have the attack power to one-round most of the things. She could probably one-round some things in the end, but it's really hard to make Vanessa's combat work in an efficient context. Even if you're giving up like 1 or 2 turns here somewhere, I still think it takes a bunch of time to make her that good. And then you have to like get the whip as well.
I don't want you to get too far ahead of yourself with this self-flagellation, because I've been stressing how great flight is without doing any combat, but you actually do promote Vanessa and Erica Route for combat reasons. So Ephraim just gets Cormac for free, so why bother? But there are a couple really hard maps in Erica Route where you really want combat Vanessa, and those are chapters 9, 12, and 15. So in Erica chapter 9, it's like a route map where there's a pocket of enemies on the top right and a pocket of enemies on the top left.
It's the port chapter, by the way, for context. The chapter with Binks and Amelia. Yes.
So there's enemies on the top right, left, and enemies on the bottom right. And Seth gets rescue dropped to the bottom right to take on the boss and the promoted. There's like a sniper or something, or maybe I'm mixing it up.
Left.
Yeah, okay. And then someone has to take out enemies on the top left. And there's like some mercenaries there with 13 AS or something. And absolutely nobody on your team is any good at taking these out except Vanessa. Because if she promotes, she will have enough AS to double them and enough strength to kill them. Like,
all right, on average, nice.
Easily on average. I forget the exact binomial, but it's something like 82% of the time.
Mm-hmm. I also just remembered, I
If she
think Ephraim
promotes
Route
it
gives you a bunch of
10-1.
energy rings. That also helps as well.
Yeah, you get 3 energy rings, although they are fairly contested. Solly wants 2.
Oh,
So
fair
you
enough.
really only get 1. But yes, so Vanessa wants to promote for that. And then chapter 12 is the most infamous chapter. Like, I know Don rage quit on chapter 9 when he tried to 0% LTC Erica route, but he would have rage quit on chapter 12 if he hadn't. All FE8 players hate chapter 12 Erica because
Oh, that's the Spider
there's,
Mountain one, right?
yes,
That's the boringest chapter in the
spiders
whole
and
series.
gargoyles over mountains that no one can traverse except for Vanessa, Tana, and Dazla, and Ross if you hate yourself. So you need Vanessa to promote for this map to kill like the gargoyle reinforcements and the spiders up north. And her strength is going to be really terrible. So when the Chungler did his efficiency run of Erica route, he had to like break the Silver Lance on this map. Because that was the only way Vanessa could kill these gargoyles. But so you need her for that. And in chapter 15, there's the big desert in between you and Valter's group. And Valter himself also exists. I could talk a lot about Valter. He is like the hardest boss to kill in the whole game, probably. But Vanessa can actually double him with the Dragon Spear.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I've always found intimidating about Vault is the fact that he can just instantly kill you if you don't have the Hopland Guard. Everything else about him is like, you just wait it out. He doesn't get a train bonus, so defensively he's not that big of a problem, I find.
You need 19 luck to survive a round. Oh, this is something I forgot to mention with Seth.
He beats Valter.
Well, yeah, Seth has 13 base luck. Like, FE8 is allergic to giving you good luck on your combat units. There's like Tana has good luck, but like Franz has 2 base luck. Cormag has 4 base luck. Artor has 2 base luck and 25% growth. Seth has 13 base luck. There's like Valter with 17 crit. Or Valter with 19. Vigard with 17. Carlisle has some stupid amount of crit too, but he at least doesn't hit very hard, so you might survive a crit.
Yeah, you can just pure water against Carlisle, right?
Right.
Or barrier.
But I think Orson's probably got crit except when he's using the rune sword. Seth is like your only candidate who might feasibly hit 19 luck.
Yeah, I think in draft races we use Ephraim for Valter because he also has the really high luck. Or he can have really high luck. You give him the goddess icon.
Ephraim can definitely get very close. It's not quite reliable to hit 19. You can pretty easily get 17 for Vigard with the Tethys' goddess icon with Ephraim. I'm kind of skipping ahead here, but it's pretty hard to hit 19 for him.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Vanessa reduces the rounds of combat you have to do against Valter if you don't have a 19 luck Seth by having a pretty good chance at killing him with the Dragon Spear in 1 round of combat and having high avoid. So those are the 3 maps where it's like, yeah, it's actually worth promoting Vanessa in this route, even though you take like a 2-turn loss to get the whip. It's a 1-turn loss in LTC, but that's not reliable.
Yeah, that's fair. And definitely fits within the context of my run, at least, and discussion I wanted, which is like, you can get the whip, I guess. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. Thank you. So first I can stay. Cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Guess
who's not staying?
Yeah, well, I wanted to do this in the order of who's moving up rather than who's dropping down. But
fair.
if you're really eager to talk about him, we can skip right to him.
All right, we could talk about Franz. I would like to talk about Franz.
All right, Franz.
Can I start with like how I assumed Franz ended up here or should end up here, and you can fix it? I think that.
Oh yeah, sure. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen the community bashing the shit out of Franz. I want to see how you think we feel about him.
Well, so here's how I viewed Franz, right? If you just play FE8 casually without caring too much about efficiency, there's a couple units that are really easy to use. The first one is obviously Seth, and next one is Franz, because Franz does fine against most enemies that he faces. Like, he's generally not gonna die for you unless you're really careless. He has enough bulk to take on like 2 or 3 enemies at a time, and he I think depending on the enemy type, he can set up kills for himself, or with some help maybe he can set up kills for himself. When you play a lot of, like I said before, the context of draft racing and the 100% growth playthrough also didn't help with that. Where I got the assumption that Franz was like sort of mediocre at the start, and then as you use him as you go along, he will get to the point where he just one-rounds everything. And I don't want to say Seth too, because Seth is really a class of his own even after growing, but Franz was still like self-sufficient and pretty good all around. So compared to a unit like Dusel or Garrick or like pretty good mid-game units, Saleh, another example, I thought Franz was generally competitive with them when fighting enemies. Now that I'm playing the early game again and trying to actually go fast, I find it much harder to feed Franz kills, and I can tell that at the trajectory he's going, he can't reliably hit the benchmarks he needs to double or one-round stuff. I've gotten somewhat lucky with his growth in my run, like a little bit. I think he got +2 speed and +1 or 2 strength in the early game pretty fast. And there's still like enemies he falls short on, and I don't want to compare him to Ford just yet, but you know, that's a problem that his family is familiar with, let me just put it that way. So not that hype on Franz anymore. I still like him because he has like low end bases and then like the good sides of Kent and Saint, it feels almost. But I can see why people are a little bit more down on him nowadays in the more efficient communities. I can see why he's not that great, because I know from like efficient playing that in the mid game and late game of Sacred Stones, you don't really need another Seth. Even if you had one, it wouldn't be that super amazing to have a second string Paladin. I know those generally are much less useful than the first one. So yeah, I would estimate that Franz, I'm a little bit spoiled because I saw Iris's tier list at one point. I know he's like still above Ford, and that's kind of where it ends. I think he ends up in like either B or C tier in the end.
Yeah, so Franz is pretty solidly B tier. I have him on the lower end of B tier. So yeah, I'm happy that you literally said the word Seth too, because that's been the big meme with us LTC.
I never liked that
elitists.
phrase, to be fair. I never liked that phrase. He's very different.
But yes, this is, I think Franz is one of the big casualties of like, so I've said for a while that your 100% growth LTC like ruined discourse on FE8, because it was like a really well put together, well produced, good low turn count playthrough that was super unrealistic for any reliable like discussion of this game. And Franz is one of the biggest examples of that. So, you know, no hate to your LTC. That's what 100% growth LTCs are. It's everyone else's fault for not making like a really good, watchable 0% LTC first. But
it's okay, they exist. But rest easy, Franz.
But yes, Franz. So what he still does, because let's not overhate on Franz, is
that's always the danger, isn't it? That people start hating on a unit too much, they end up putting him in D tier and stuff.
Right. He saves 1 turn over Kyle and Ford if you can promote him by chapter 8.
All right, I remember this.
In LTC. Now, here's the thing: is like he steals XP. If you want to do that, like you can't promote him and Vanessa and Artur. And Franz is easily the most replaceable of those 3. So on Ephraim Route, I would like never promote Franz playing casually or like efficiently. I'd promote Vanessa and I'd promote Artur and I would promote Kyle. But on Ephraim Route, like you can put XP into Franz because like you can literally just do whatever the hell you want with early gamers in Ephraim Route because none of them need to promote. So he can save 1 turn, and he's probably still your best Paladin in the mid game between him, Kyle, and Ford. None of these guys are one-rounding anyone difficult. They can take on like soldiers, maybe archers, you know, real dog shit enemies, but maybe mages, but they're not taking on, you know, cavaliers, mercenaries. Fighters is like one of the things that Franz, if he hits his speed growth and his strength growth, he can actually maybe one-round fighters, and that's something Ford or Kyle will really never do. So there are a couple places fighters in FE8 are cracked. They're really hard to take out. Like for unpromoted enemies, fighters are one of the scariest. So Franz maybe being able to one-round fighters is like something.
Yeah, I've had him fight a couple of fighters before, and the only ones he doubles reliably are Steel Axe ones so far. I'm up to chapter 8 or so. So it's not looking great in that regard. But I know they have like really low defense, just really high HP.
Right. I'm thinking of like, there's chapter 13 fighters in Ephraim Route. There's also this one chapter 13 mage in Ephraim Route, which like really is what Paladin 2 takes out. And that's a route map, right? Ephraim 13. And
Yeah, it's the Selena map. I try to use
Yes.
those kind of references instead of numbers because people might not be as familiar as we are with the games. I know the numbers, but not everyone might.
Right, yeah, that's a good point. I should try and do that when I remember. So in the Selena map, like you have to take someone over to give Garrick his weapons and so he can go to town with like a hand axe. And that's your Paladin 2. And then that Paladin 2 wants to take on this one mage who has like thunder and it's not a threat, but you want to kill him fast. And the javelin hit sucks. So being able to double this guy is really, really helpful to get like more chances at killing him fast. And Paladin Franz can do this like every time, and Paladin Ford and Kyle cannot. So like
Good.
there are reasons that he is the best Paladin if you can promote him, but he does steal XP, and he makes the early game a little less reliable if you try and use him this way. And I think his early game contributions like count as well. So that's the other reason I would say he's still all right.
Yeah.
He is your best jobber because he has good hit, he has good move, he doesn't die easily. So even if he doesn't kill anything, like Vanessa's not one rounding anything. And if you want to promote her, you need somebody to set her up the kills. And Seth is off completing the actual objective and getting you low turns. So Franz is here to like walk up to a soldier and double them with an iron lance and leave him at 4 HP so Vanessa can get the kill. And that's something. So I still think he's solidly B tier. I think any lower than that and you're just like hating on Franz,
yeah.
but I've also never seen anybody put him lower than that.
I'll put him at like the bottom for now, and if there's anything else we need to rearrange, we can just do that later.
Yep, that works for me.
All right.
And while I'm here, Franz has 2 luck and E rank swords, and I hate that about him.
Oh yeah, his weapon
like,
are kind of. Yeah, I remember him not being able to use the steel sword when I wanted to. I was like, bro,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah, he has D lances at base, which is fine, but his E swords, yeah, if you want to like double a fighter with a steel sword, like you could do it, except you can't use the steel sword.
Yeah.
So I've fun with that. One other thing that I'll mention about Franz before we move on is, Franz was overrated because he's like a unit with some generally good attributes, and people look at that and they think, oh, he must be good because he's got all the things we expect a good unit to have. Then you explore him and realize, wait, he really doesn't do that much. So when you run into a unit like this, I think the natural thing to do, if you're like really trying to learn about the game, is to say, what other dumb shit can we do with Franz that might redeem him? And
Oh no. Don't
I
say
think it was
Great Knight.
Karma.
Oh, don't say
Yes.
Great Knight. No.
Yes.
Oh.
Karma did a run of Erica Route where basically she used Franz instead of Garrick. So she promoted him to Great Knight, and then trained his axe rank on like chapter 13 while waiting for Cormag, and then used Garm.
Oh god.
I would not say that this is like good or important, but it's like a thing he can do that's not immediately very stupid. But I don't think it really affects his ranking because in the end, being a second Paladin is important, and being a second Garrick's like not that important.
There's like 5 different second Garricks in this game. I think you need Franz to
Right.
be that.
And when you see where I tier Garrick, well, watch out for that.
Oh, God.
All right. So, all right, we're done talking about Franz. Let's talk about Moulder.
Okay.
So when Mecca showed me this list, the first thing I said was you could literally swap Franz and Moulder. So let's do that. Put Moulder after Vanessa, because that's where I have him.
It's fine. I'll take him up to B. I like him in the B tier because it makes him like, it's like Boulder to Moulder, but whatever.
Right.
Sure, here you go.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's actually Elder.
Yeah. Yeah, that has the same ring to it. I agree. We can keep that.
Yeah. So Moulder, he's almost like this game's Pent or Nime.
No, he's not.
Yeah, no, he is, which
No.
sounds ridiculous. But the thing is, I was describing Moulder to USS Gordon Captain yesterday, and he said, so if you had a unit who joined in Chapter 16 with A rank staves for free and 5 warp range, they would be A tier? And I said, yes. That's what Moulder does. Like, he so easily hits A rank staves. You don't even have to think about it. Because he joins with C in chapter 2, and he just like uses torch on every fog map every turn, and like heals dudes. And there's very minor contributions that he has before chapter 16. Like there's a few maps where restore is really nice to have. Chapter 9 Ephraim, there's 2 sleep mages, and Moulder's like your only guy who can hit C staves by then reliably. There's like Chapter 14 Ephraim and Chapter 14 Erica both have status staves, although I think the ones in Erica Route are from like low mag shitters. But Ephraim Route has like 20 mag berserk druids, so you really want to restore on that map. But for the most part, what he does is he warps for free. Saleh, you have to grind really hard to hit warp. You have to be doing complete recruitment Erica Route. Artur, you have to sweat so hard to get to warp, and your reward is like 2 warp range over Moulder, maybe. So when you look at like actual tile counting and LTC, you know how many turns warp Saleh saves over warp Moulder in Erica Route?
Saleh over Moulder, I think it was like 1 or 2 turns.
It's 1 turn in 0% and 0 turns in growths.
Wow.
Yeah.
I still think the more apt comparison from Moulder is someone like Saul from FE6, who was kind of like do nothing other than self improvement for a lot of the game, and then he gets warp and he becomes really good. But I can see where you're coming from though.
Yeah, Saul. I'm not like an FE6 player, but in my experience from watching LTCs, Saul people had to like really work and grind to get where he needed to get. Granted, that was more about his magic stat than his warp range. With Moulder, you just, you lay down and accept death, and you say, yes, I have 5 warp range, and that's all I need.
Well, yeah, because you can bypass some really crucial terrain with the 5 warp alone, so that's pretty good.
Right. The big thing that comes to mind is the walls in Chapter 16.
Yeah, the Orson map, right?
Yeah, they're 4 tiles wide. So you only need 5 warp range, and it saves like 5 or 6 turns on Ephraim Route. Just have 5 warp range, and having 10 warp range saves the same amount of turns. The chapter 20, where you have to get from like the left side to the right side to the left side of the swamp in Darkling Woods. It's 4 tiles wide there again, and you could fly or drop that, but it's kind of unsafe to drop your lord.
No, there's like a forest tile. That area sucks.
But you can just warp it, and Moulder has just enough warp range to do that. So he has 5 just barely enough on basically every map in this game. And yeah, so Moulder is one of the best units in the game.
Moulder supremacy. I can buy it.
Now there's one other thing that I need to bring up, which is Latona.
Yes.
So Latona doesn't seem like it'd be important. You only get 3 uses of it. And in other games like FE6, the Saint Staff, does anybody care?
Saint Latona. Oh yeah. Saint Staff is good.
Really?
I mean,
okay.
It's not good if you're skipping the maps that you have it for. So in that regard, it doesn't really matter that much. But FE6 does have a lot of status stabs in late game that you can cure with it. So for like slightly more casual play, it becomes really relevant.
That is fair. That is fair. I was thinking of like, Don's LTC or whatever. But yeah, Latona is huge to have in FE8 late game. Not for the status staves, because there aren't any, but Leon has 55 magical attack and 147 hit. And nobody one-rounds him. So somebody has to attack Leon on player phase and then survive an enemy phase against him. And if you can't Latona, you basically have to like either route that map or just reset until Mur gets like an 8% critical. Because you can't survive 2 rounds of combat against Leon plus... Well, okay, so the fun thing about that map is the enemy movement order is all messed up.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up.
Leon moves before the Gorgons. But he moves after the Bone Walkers at least. And it's hard to survive Leon twice plus all the whites. And being able to Latona saves like so many turns there.
And the gap is too wide to physic, right? Just to like cut that off real quick. You can't physic.
Oh yeah, the gap is 10 tiles wide. Actually 11 tiles. So even Saleh, if he wasn't warping, which he is, would need 22 magic to physic Mur after she attacks Leon. And he already warped her, so he can't do that. So Latona's super great there. It's also super great in chapter 20, and this is like not quite so essential, but to take on Morva, you need to have like 40 something HP, I think, because he just ignores defense.
Yeah, he's
And
like
he has
30, 39, 37, something like that.
37 sounds right.
Yeah, that's the fire dragon from FP7.
Is
But
it?
he's on a gate. Yeah, it is. Actually, the fire dragon hack to hard mode is 39 because of hard mode bonuses, but in normal mode he does 37.
Yeah. So and he doesn't ignore defense, does he? So.
But the fire dragon also ignores defense.
Oh
So
well.
you're
yeah.
basically fighting the same enemy, but on a gate with less HP, I guess.
Yeah. He flies though. He doesn't get terrain bonuses.
Yeah.
He does get terrain healing, but like
Yeah, whatever. That doesn't.
you
that shouldn't
cannot let
matter.
Morva heal because you've played for them too long if you're letting Morva heal. But yeah, so having just a way to heal up, say Cormag or Vanessa right before they engage Morva in case they got chipped on enemy phase 1 is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And Latona does that. And Moulder's like the only guy who could possibly hit Latona because he hits A rank staves, then he promotes and gets plus 40 staff rank. So then it's pretty quick to get him to S.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Sala is like grinding hard just to get warp in a relevant time frame, and then I think I've seen him hit S in like slower playthroughs, but I wouldn't say it's an LTC thing to hit.
Yeah, I mean he can hit S if you are moving just even a tiny bit slower, because he does use warp a fair bit.
Yeah.
But he needs like 10 warps to hit S, and he just doesn't use quite that many in efficient playthrough. Plus, he is warping, and Moulder has a free action.
True.
All right, let's talk about Tethys.
Mm-hmm.
Tethys is next, and she also doesn't have to move.
Yay.
That's nice. Yeah.
She can dance from Moulder now.
Yeah, exactly. So she enables Warp Saleh and Warp Artur because they don't hit warp without a bunch of dancing.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I saw that from your playthrough. I don't remember from our playthroughs, but you just dance Seth for one turn, or you dance a flyer for one turn, and the rest of the map she just dances for staff users.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens. She enables Rescue Saleh in Ephraim Route too. Good call out. Because I was thinking about like Erica Route, but you're right. In Ephraim Route, Rescue Saleh also needs Tethys dancing. And most warp skips is what you do is you just need to cross a certain amount of tiles and you combine warp plus Tethys to save a turn. So like 21 tiles to the boss in chapter 17. That's the first Leon map with the yellow river. You need a 5 range warp and a dance, and you save 1 turn to do both of these. So like Tethys gets equal credit to Moulder for saving a turn on that map. There are exceptions. Chapter 16, like if you had Tethys but no Moulder, you'd be in Pain Town. Chapter 20, Tethys doesn't really do anything because it's too dangerous to drop her near everybody else on turn 2, so you just like leave her behind. She lets somebody do a drop on turn 1 with like a dance so that a flyer can move twice and drop a unit they just picked up. But not super essential on those 2 maps, but in like every other warp skip in the game, Tethys is just as valuable as your warper.
Yeah, and I think honestly, even if you don't want to, because I said this wasn't going to be an strictly LTC thing, but I think for these 2 units it doesn't even matter if you change the context around a little bit, because both the support that Moulder provides and support that Tethys provides are still really good, even if you're going a little bit slower. You still get a lot of really good value out of both of them. So I don't think that they can change all that much. Just to make sure that everyone knows, yeah. It's not
Tethys also is like a dancer, right?
Yeah,
like I've just been talking about, oh, she's basically a ghetto warper, but there are other things dancers do. If you need to kill some enemy, like you can dance a combat unit, and I do that a lot in my LTC. It's not like a thing that doesn't happen. So she's all the things that a dancer is, plus it's really hard to. She's almost joined at the hip to Moulder. It's hard to say, you know, oh, Moulder is that much better than Tethys. Like, I actually agonized over this for a while between which of these 2 is the 3rd best unit in the game. I decided on Moulder because of Leon and the Latona contribution, but Tethys is very good.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I guess Tethys is a little bit worse in Ephraim Route because she joins a little bit later. That's like the main difference, I guess, between those.
Also because she's not grinding somebody to warp.
Yeah, I guess that too.
But I would still put her at 4th best in Ephraim Route.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's worse, but nobody else moves up to take her place.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so real quick, we've actually talked about 4 units in 45 minutes. So how about we go for an hour total, maybe discuss a couple more units, and then we can leave the rest for next part, and we'll see how long it takes.
Maybe we can knock out B tier. I have 4 more units to discuss, and hopefully they should move a bit faster because we've laid out a bunch of the essentials of FE8.
Is everyone else gonna move down then?
Oh yeah, that's the
Okay.
whole A tier.
Okay.
So the joke is S tier is Seth, A tier is the people who move Seth around the map, and it's true.
Mm-hmm.
So B tier is the people who do a lot of things while Seth is being the main objective clearer. And we'll start with Tana. Tana's my next unit.
Oh, all right. Interesting.
Yeah, kind of surprising.
It's not Vanessa, but it's still Pegasus Knight.
Exactly. So, yeah, flight is just like that important in FE8. So, one thing to call out is that one of Tana or Vanessa needs to promote an Ephraim Route with the Chapter 15 Master Seal. And, like, it can easily be Tana. So,
I feel like Tana would be easier, right? Once you concede that it has to be just one of them, and it's not going to be Vanessa early, because Tana's those levels in a less competitive space.
right. Well, Tana joins with better bases, right? She's basically Vanessa with +2 in every stat at level 4.
Yeah.
And she has better growths. And she does join right before some free XP maps. So, Chapter 10 is... In LTC, you clear that map very fast. Because it's a kill boss map, but the boss is like an extremely awful dodgy ranger. And I'm interested to see, I've never really put too much thought into how you do this map reliably, but I think you'd have a lot of time to grind Tana. The Chungler is working on an Ephraim Route efficiency playthrough right now, and I really want to see what he does with this map. But you have time to grind Tana there, and then she gets like 2 whole free levels in Phantom Ship, killing Moguls. She easily 1-rounds like all of them at base with the Iron Lance. I think if they roll up on both like HP and defense, she might come 1 HP short, but like she just feeds on Moguls in Phantom Ship.
That sounds about
And
right. I
then-
used her in my 100% LTC, and obviously Tana was like close to base, so that roughly
Right.
reflects what I remember her doing.
Right. So the thing is like, yeah, it can easily be Tana. That's not saying it has to be Tana. Like you can go into Ephraim Route saying, you know, I'm gonna play Ephraim Route in this playthrough. I'm gonna just ignore Vanessa, maybe train Franz, maybe train Loot, and then I'm gonna use Tana. And that's a totally viable way to play. But something funny that someone told me about that you could decide whether to go Erica or Ephraim Route based on Vanessa's early levels. So you could give Vanessa like 3 or 4 levels, and then go, wow, she hasn't picked up strength even once. She got like 1 speed level. You know what? I'm just gonna drop her now and go Ephraim Route. And then maybe you still want to just grind Vanessa to level 10. Now the thing is, like the benchmark in Phantom Ship that you really want is 7 strength. So if Vanessa has less than that going into Phantom Ship, I really cannot see using her long term, because you can't 1-round Moguls and then you don't get XP. Whereas Tana just joins with 7 strength. So yeah, she can promote an Ephraim Route. And then all the things that I said about Vanessa being an untrained flyer and still contributing are totally still true for Tana. So like someone needs to get Ewan, someone needs to drop people across rivers, someone needs to like go up this mountain, someone needs to carry Seth to the boss area in Erica Port Map, Chapter 9. And Vanessa's actually killing mercenaries in the top left, so Tana does that.
Yeah, she just misses out on the early game flying, basically.
Right. So yeah.
Hence B tier.
Yeah, I'm not 100% confident that she's actually better than my next unit, but this is where I have her because my next unit, Cormag.
Ah, yes. Cormac to B tier. And I'm assuming like he would be higher if this was just an Ephraim Route tier. So I guess I haven't mentioned this yet, but this is a merge of Erica and Ephraim Routes. I didn't tier them separately. So this is kind of like the average of Cormac's utility in Erica Route and Ephraim Route. And I guess we're also assuming full recruitment for this, because Cormac does cost turns, or did you factor that in for this?
So I was going by like the standard like fish cord rules of we're not necessarily playing full recruitment, but like we weight that about equally with incomplete, and then your recruitment cost doesn't count against you. So like when it comes to discussing Sale, we're going to talk about a context where you skip Cormag in Erica Route.
Mm-hmm.
But with Cormag, we just assume you got him.
Okay.
And yeah, he's A tier in Ephraim Route. But in Erica Route, he joins just like too late. His lance rank is too bad. He still is good, don't get me wrong, but like Tana is just better than him
Yeah.
in Erica Route. And Tana's still like B tier in Ephraim Route, so they could go either way. Anyway, what does Cormac do? He's a combat flyer who isn't a pain in the ass to train. He has like 13 base speed after promotion, 15 base strength, 33 base HP. C lances, so you can use a killer lance at base, unlike Tana and Vanessa who both have D. And yeah, and he joins at like promotion level. So he's super great. His downfalls, his luck is just really, really bad. And he can get crit, and that really sucks. So like,
monks.
yeah, you see a monk, you see a thunder mage, you know, you should be shitting your pants. His res is really bad. There are status staves, like Selena map again. There's a troubadour who just sits there spamming sleep with like 5 magic. And she has annoyingly high hit on Cormag. She has like 50 hit. Because he has 3 res on base, or 4 res. His skill is kind of bad. Basically, RNG is Cormag's dump stat. And like somehow he's just unreliable at almost everything because everything luck based he's bad at. He can't dodge status staves. He gets crit. He misses.
Yeah, I think you said weapon rank. One thing I remember being annoying about Cormac is actually his trouble hitting S lances in a reasonable time frame because
and
he starts
Erica
with
Route,
C.
that is true.
Yeah, and then also I guess his speed is a little worse than you might expect of like a carry unit, but that's fixable, right? And
Right.
I actually did. I just remembered I did a death mode run of FE8. No growths, no gold, nothing.
This is the 10% random heart attack.
Yeah, that's the heart attack run. Yeah, and my Cormag. First of all, I laughed at the monk because he died to a monk at the end of a long chapter, a Carlisle chapter. He died at the end to a monk, which was memorable to say the least. And then also, I remembered him just not helping a whole lot. This was a 0% growth kind of run, so it's not really the context we're talking about. But I just remembered, like, I was really underwhelmed by how good Cormac was on Erica Route for some reason. I think because he joins so late, and because you want some kind of strong flyer before he joins, that he kind of gets obsoleted. Because you already have someone else that does, like, flying combat carry stuff.
I think there's a combination of things. So, like, even on Ephraim Route, like, you want stat boosters in Cormag, especially speed wings. But you can afford it because Ephraim Route has an extra speed wing. So on Erica Route, like, he doesn't get a free speed wing because you kind of want to use your speed wings on other units like Seth. And he joins, like, he gets less XP because he joins later, even though he joins at a slightly higher level with better bases. And yeah, and you trained Vanessa. So, for example, in Ephraim Route, you want someone to fly up and handle Kelly's group. In Erica Route, like, you're right next to Kelly, but on the flip side, you want someone to fly down and handle Walter's group. In Ephraim Route, you just use Cormac for that, because he basically joins, he needs like a bunch of stat booster favoritism, which you might not be able to afford for him, but he basically joins ready to do this with some help and levels. In Erica Route, like, he's not going to be able to do it, and you train Vanessa to do it. So then what's Cormac got left to do? Right? There's only one place that you need to send a flyer. You can send him down next to Vanessa, and like, again, this is that weird thing where you have a really good combat unit, you can't stand too close because you'll draw away combat on enemy phase. So he can like clean up some guys on player phase, I guess. But yeah, Erica Route Cormag is like shockingly bad for how good his bases look.
It's a feeling I got too, but he's still here in B tier because Ephraim Route Cormac is that good.
Yeah. I will say, like, in Ephraim Route, if you just don't give a shit about reliability, Cormag is probably the best unit in the game.
Oh yeah, if you can rig Pierce crits, that's a whole different kind of story. Or
Yeah,
Pierce
he's
anything.
like-
You did like a whole like calculation for how much Pierce saves you.
Yeah, he's flying Seth. My 0% LTC, Cormag saved like 3 turns over Seth or something. With like flight and Pierce, and he can replicate his combat just super unreliably. But if you care about reliability, I think he's accurately tiered.
Mm-hmm. I do care.
Next unit. Yeah, we care in this tier list. Alright, next unit, Saleh.
Saleh. All right, so
Yes.
he's also really impacted by the route split. He's like very different, I think.
Oh, less so than some other units actually.
Well,
but,
yeah, but I don't know. I think at least for casual players, you'll notice the difference immediately.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so Sale and Erica route is like, well, we have to consider, are you doing complete or incomplete recruitment, right? Because if you have like 6 turns to wait around in Cormac's map to recruit him, then you can grind Sale to warp by chapter 16. If you're doing incomplete recruitment, you can't do that, and that hurts him a little, but it doesn't actually hurt him as much as you might think.
Well, yeah, because just everything gets slower, but he's still doing all the staff utility.
Right, and he can probably still hit warp by chapter like 19, which is the next time you really want a huge range warp. I haven't actually like looked into this, but I'm just thinking that's probably about right.
Yeah, I, mean, I could see chapter 18 that matters there, maybe, depending on exactly how many turns you can shoot for. But 19 is definitely huge, yeah, to have warp for, because 19 is the defend chapter with Riev, whereas 18 is the Gorgon map.
Right. So he never hits warp on Ephraim Route. So this is what you were talking about how the route split like really affects his viability. But the thing is, even on Ephraim Route, like he's a solid C tier because rescue saves turns. Ephraim Route is stuck with 5 range warpers, and sometimes you just need a big staff movement. Like there's a point in my LTC where I want to rescue somebody 9 tiles, and Sale can still do that. He can still hit rescue, and so he still saves like 3 turns in Ephraim Route or something in a pure LTC. Now, in reliable context, not having warp Sale really stopped. And let's talk about why. So I said, Sale saves 0 turns in a 100% LTC and like 1 turn in a 0% LTC. But he saves a bunch of turns in an efficient playthrough. So how? Because he lets you use Myrrh.
That's what I like to hear.
Right. So, like having 10 range warp means your boss killer can have stubby 6 move legs. And Myrrh is the only reliable boss killer late game. So having warp Sale is super huge just for being able to use Myrrh. And that's really like why I value him as a warper so much. It's also like the egg map chapter, like you said. There are like fun things you can do to really eke out all the movement you can with just Moulder, but you have to think so much less with Sale, and thinking less generally corresponds to greater reliability. So
yeah. I also think
without overthinking that,
even if you're not overthinking everything, you're just trying to spam good moves. Sale makes it so easy, because I think even outside of the staff utility, which is like huge for this kind of thing, even if you're playing at like a slightly slower pace, that doesn't hurt Sale at all either, because I think that this really works for support units really well. Is he provides other staff utility that you might not really care about in LTC, but can still be really good. Like you get a physic really late, it's too late to really care about, but for an efficient or casual player, that can really impact things.
Hamern and Barrier come to mind as like things that I wish I could have used more of in my LTC, but all my C+ rank staffers were busy using movement staves.
Yeah, and then he also has access to Purge if you kill a certain sage in the Orson chapter, for example, which is really fun if you're killing Gorgon eggs. And he's also just really good at combat if your context allows for it. Like for example, the Desert chapter, you can kill a bunch of goons at base level without any investment whatsoever, which I've always found really helpful.
Only Erica Route Sale should be doing like any combat, I will say. Ephraim Route Sale, that is not his thing. Obviously if he has to hit the staff benchmark, he's way too busy to do it. Right? Well, it's not that. He's just like Seth bulk, like base Seth. He joins with like 30 HP and 10 defense or something, or 8 defense.
Oh, true. You have to be careful, but he doesn't take counters, so you can generally do something with him, I find.
Yeah, he's got 16 magic and 14 speed, so his offense is pretty good, but he is not exactly a combat god on Ephraim Route. But in Erica Route, like chapter 12, he can take on like 3 gargoyles on enemy phase, which is something you really need to be able to do in that map. So he definitely has a little more combat utility in Erica Route than Ephraim Route, or he can probably do something more in the desert because he's gotten some levels, he's gotten a bit of HP. He can walk down and maybe take on all the wyverns that are standing around Falter. But yeah, his combat exists, I think is what I'll say about it.
Yeah.
And like free C staves, with the potential to be a massive range warper.
Depending on how much, depending on how long he's around for, how many turns you have left in the game, that really changes how Saleh, what he can do, I guess.
I need to point out, I have been assuming 10 range warp on Saleh when I talk about how useful he is. The reason that 10 range is like the benchmark in my head is Leon. Again.
Of course.
There is the white standing 2 tiles down from Leon. You need 10 range to skip right past him and just fight Leon without having to kill the white.
Yeah.
And that requires either 2 magic levels on something like a 30% growth, which is kind of hard to get on a pre-promote that doesn't see that much combat, or 2 energy rings. So he starts with 16 and you need 20. So.
Oh yeah, that's why he wants 2 energy rings. Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense.
So he does like steal some resources, but he is the best guy to get them.
Mm-hmm. And I think, again, even if you don't give him those resources, he still keeps like 90% of the utility that he has. He just misses an important benchmark, right? Well, I mean, he's not going to keep all the utility, but like Saleh's not going to drop 5 tiers just because he doesn't get 2 energy rings.
Yeah, no, he's still, probably B tier.
Mm-hmm.
But
I say things like this because I don't think I think there's like 5 people, 10 people total that maybe play LTC. But there's hopefully a little more people who watch these videos and are like, yo, do I need to give Sal these energy rings? I was like, nah.
Well, yeah, that's why I hesitated when you asked your question. It's like, no, I would really strongly say, like, unless you want to play a 12-turn Leon map, like, give Sal 10 match.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
That map is like really brutal if you're not just smashing him with Myrrh or
Pierce critting.
Seth.
That's my usual.
Or Pierce critting.
That's my usual.
Those are your options for Leon.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I really hesitate to say it's fine not to get 20 magic Saleh because.
Oh, here's the other option. You just play 100% growth, easy. And you just have 25 magic Saleh whenever you want it, or whatever his cap is.
Right.
Because normally his growth is kind of cringe. Okay, one more unit.
Yeah, one more unit in B tier, and then I guess we'll cut the video off.
Yeah.
You can just like move everybody that I haven't talked about into C tier, and we'll start
make it even more crowded down there.
Yeah, C tier is gonna get pretty fat for a bit, but don't worry, we'll clear that up. So the last unit that I think is a B tier unit is Kyle.
Oh, all right, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kyle, come here. I'll just drop Arthur down for now. I'll just put you here. Talk about you next time.
Yeah, I mean. Kyle. Everyone right of Kyle is going down even to C tier or lower.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, Franz. Franz is in front of Kyle.
Oh yeah, he is.
I forgot that we put that guy there. But...
Okay, I'll just drop these guys down now, so there's no confusion.
Yeah. No, I have Franz ahead of Kyle. Like better than.
All right, here you go.
There.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, if you're not promoting Franz, you promote Kyle.
Yeah. Yeah, because what's Kyle's base level again? 5?
5.
Yeah.
It like lower than Ford's, which matters in LTC, but it does not matter if you take your time on chapter 5x. Like to get the low turn on 5x, that's the Ephraim map with Orson and stuff. You have to do some really bad rigging. So if you're taking your time on that map and getting like an 8 turn reliably, Kyle promotes before you need him. And yeah, he's like a Franz that doesn't steal XP. So he doesn't have Franz's early game contributions, and he doesn't really contribute in chapter 5x or chapter 8 to make up for it. He can't double some things that Franz can double, like fighters if he gets lucky, or mages quite reliably. But he does everything Franz needs to do, basically, at least competently. He one-round soldiers with the Iron Lance, which
I'm sorry, I just really used because he always joins with that whole group joins with a Steel Lance on each of the units there. You just don't have an Iron Lance.
Yeah.
It's so annoying.
Yeah. I'm not talking about 5x where you don't have an Iron Lance because the game hates you. I'm talking about in like chapter 9 or whatever.
Yeah, when you actually have a convoy and everything. Yeah.
Right, but that's a good call out. Just that one of the reasons that Kyle can't contribute for shit in 5x is because only Orson has good hit rates and Ephraim with the Regan Leaf, but you need to like have Ephraim in someone's saddlebags all the time. So, but yeah, if I was playing Erica route, I would always promote Kyle. I would never promote Franz because like I'm promoting Vanessa and I'm probably promoting Artur in Erica route.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have enough XP to go around unless you're doing 100% gross shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
You can promote Franz in Ephraim route, but it's fine to promote Kyle still. The chapter 9 in Ephraim route, that's the super long seas map with Geb. You get bulk checked really hard, and Kyle's gonna have better bulk than Franz.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. That's like the main difference when I usually raise him casually. Is like Franz is supposed to be like a bit all around, I guess. Like I said, he has like low-ish bases, but his goes are more offensive. Whereas Kyle is all bulk. He barely doubles anything, I think, normally.
Yeah, he doubles soldiers, archers. That's about it. Shamans have really low AS too. But yeah, so Kyle does what was I gonna say?
He gets bulk checked really hard in chapter 9.
Right.
In the Geb chapter.
Yeah. Because there's just so many enemies and you kind of just run right through them, and enemy phase them, and they're like sniping you from the longbow and mage pits, and there's a bunch of cavaliers who rush in behind you and start attacking you with steel lances and javelins and tickling you from behind. And so having Kyle's extra bulk there is actually like, I think, valuable. But yeah, he's Franz without the early game contributions. That's
still lower.
I think what I can say.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've actually talked about like what mid game Paladin does. I talked about all the things they don't do. They don't replicate Seth.
You said they trade weapons to Garrick, I think, and kill a mage in the Selena chapter.
Yeah, they do that in the Selena chapter, but there's other things they do, and I think I'll like list their contributions so we understand like what you're raising a paladin for and why it's fine that it's Kyle who doesn't double anything. So like I'll talk Ephraim route first because I am more comfortable with that. But in chapter 9, you need somebody who can keep pace with Seth, to like clear his way, to carry Ephraim in saddlebags so you can seize. In chapter 10, there's a bunch of villages and like items that you can get in the bottom half of the map. And again, you just need somebody with a lot of move to run down there. In chapter 11, there are a few Moguls that actually move, and 7 strength flyers are not good enough because a javelin has 1 less fight than an iron lance, right? So you need to be able to double Moguls with a javelin and 1 round them. And the benchmark for that is super low. It's 8 strength and I think 8 AS.
Honestly, that's even higher than I expected it to be. Moguls suck so much. But yeah. Okay, so just give him pure water, put him a javelin, and you're done.
Right, you don't even need to pure water him because it's like literally like 1 Mogul here, 2 Moguls there. You just give him a vulnerary.
Oh yeah,
but
that works too.
Chapter 13 I already talked about, and then chapter 14 you need high move to run up and grab the angelic robe in the top left.
Yeah, this is the Vigard map, if I recall.
Yes. And then Paladin 2 stops existing. So none of those things have a lot to do with combat. So except for chapter 9 where you're taking a lot of hits, just like existing with 8 move is basically good enough. In Erica Route, Erica Route's a bit more focused on combat benchmarks and a little less movement focused. So this is why Erica Route is the one where people were like, what if I went Great Knight for like the extra point of strength and speed? Chapter 9, you need somebody to go top left and kill enemies, unfortunately. But again, I already talked about how in Erica Route, you really can't promote Franz. So you use Vanessa to do this, and then Kyle picks up some scraps.
Yeah, and I remember that. I remember you have to use like Ford and Kyle in that map to pick up a lot of scraps. This is what made Donna rage quit the whole thing, because I think that top left area is just so dense with like a sniper that one kills your flyers and like 1 rounds a lot of really fill units, and then you have these mercenary reinforcements that just like double everyone. And you either do good damage, you have good hit, or you don't die, and then pick one of these things, and that's what Ford and Kyle can do. They can't have one of these things.
Jelly Unicorn said she had to rig 7 crits, 7 like low percent crits on that map in her LTC, her 0% LTC. So yeah, chapter 9, chapter 10, he does nothing. Chapter 11, again, it's a map with Moguls and like Bone Walkers, and someone has to go over and go to like the Muthdoog area. And I think Kyle's actually rescue dropping there more than attacking, because you want Artur to be doing the combat against Muthdugs and Gargoyles and stuff, but he has 6 move.
He just reminded me I've never pronounced the name of that class. I always say mouth dog because they have big mouths.
I have no idea how it's pronounced.
Me
It's
neither.
a weird name for sure. Chapter 12, there's like some random filler combat toward the middle of the map that he can do. And then chapter 13 doesn't exist.
That's right, because you stop at chapter 12. No one plays beyond chapter 12, Erica wrote.
Right, you get to chapter 12 and you rage quit the game.
Exactly.
No, chapter 13 doesn't exist because you wait for like 7 turns to get Cormac. So nothing matters. And chapter 14 is another map like Ephraim 9 where you just need somebody with high move to keep pace with Seth. And again, then Paladin 2 stops existing. So those are the things that Paladin 2 does in the mid game, is like he exists with 8 move and he walks around the map killing jobber enemies in like 5 turns. He like takes 3 rounds of combat to kill an unpromoted enemy, but that's fine because that's all you need him to do. So really, when it comes to tiering Paladin 2, we are splitting hairs. It almost doesn't matter. Like, they all kind of are the same. But
yeah, I think Franz and Kyle are about the same, yeah.
But I noticed you left someone off of that list.
What list? What are you talking about? These are the only cavalry units in the game, right?
Yeah. Oh man, FE8 really is quite stingy with 8 move units or like mounted units.
It
But
is.
that's a story for
It just
another
has
day.
a small cast in general.
Right. When I was doing my 0% LTC, I was trying to 4-turn chapter 18, and I was like, I need some unit with 7 move, but I didn't have any. I was using like every single one that could possibly survive a round of combat, which was like 4 or 5 of them.
Well, this was any other game, Dussel would just be a paladin and you'd have him. But, you know, they made the Great Knight promotion here. And I guess they ditched Orson as well. That doesn't help.
Yeah. Man, Orson, actual Seth too. I miss him.
He's a real paladin too.
Right. Even Ford, like, we joke a lot
Ugh.
about how Ford sucks, but like he's really not that much worse. He's almost as good. It's just there's no reason to use him because he's not quite as good. And like, yeah. But he will be coming up soon in the next video.
Oh
I
yeah, we're gonna talk
promise.
about Ford next video for sure. But yeah, I think before we recorded this, you said you weren't sure if you could talk for more than 1 or 2 hours. I think you said 1 hour, but not 2, about this whole thing. And here we have tiered 9 units. 2 of them didn't even move. 3 of them didn't even move. And we have gone for 1 hour 13 minutes. So congratulations, you can talk about this game for a long time.
Yeah,
Welcome to the club.
I like FE8.
It's a good game. Well, I guess we're recording another episode of this at some point.
Yeah. All right.
And then we'll talk
That'll be
about the big bloated C tier, and we'll see if we can make another couple tiers at the bottom here for Ford, because he's not accurately tiered right now.
Yeah, I mean, as much as it's going to be a fun thumbnail to have Ford under F tier, yeah.
Yeah. Why are you calling me out like this? Why are you exposing my schemes like this? Anyway, memes aside, thanks for joining.
Right.
I appreciate your thoughts, and we'll see you next time.
It was fun. Yeah, I look forward to recording again.